Another day, another very dark video. I don't have that many lights in my room, they're all kind of centered around my desk. I'll try and take some videos in the day soon, but for now, I hope the darkness is a nice focus for looking at me. So, I want to talk about how did I know that I was transgendered? For me, this is a very difficult thing to explain. It's not clear-cut for me at all. My history, or my story, is basically that I, as a child, was always very interested in transgender stories and like comic books and things that had men that were turned into women. There was a Japanese comic that I saw when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and it is called Ranma One Half. It is a famous comic, and the main character is transgendered, not by choice. He's this Japanese martial artist that gets cursed, and so whenever he gets wet with cold water, he turns into a girl. Turns back when he gets wet with hot water, but like other characters turn into other things like pandas and little piglets and cats and all sorts of stuff. So it's a really funny show, but yeah, transgendered main character, and I discovered this comic when I was 10 or 11, and I was instantly obsessed with it. Like, I was glued to it. I could not believe that there existed this story about a transgender person, even though it was fictional. So it got a lot worse for me when I started puberty. I just did what felt natural for me, and that was to think about myself with a woman's body. But that didn't make it clear to me, you know. I didn't realize, I did know that I could become a transsexual, that I could take hormones and maybe get surgeries and blah blah blah, but like I didn't really feel like that was right for me. It just felt like I was something different, or that I wouldn't be successful if I were to be a transsexual, and that I would always just be this very masculine weirdo. And I don't feel that way anymore, obviously, and I wish that I could go back and tell myself this, because I wish that I would have started my transition earlier. But like I was saying, it's not very clear cut for me that when I realized it. So, you know, it took me a long time. I got involved with my significant other, who I've talked about a little bit already. We were together for 5 years, and I came out after 2 years. It became clear pretty quickly that I had to choose between my significant other and my transition, so I figured, well, this is not a very big part of me. You know, I care about this person so much more than I care about being some female. And I went for about 3 years with this attitude of, it's not that important, and I genuinely tried to push it out of myself, or to ignore it and just not pay any attention. But what happened was my dysphoria came out in different ways. I would get very uncomfortable if transgender related issues ever came up in conversation or on television or in books that I was reading or that my significant other was reading. So I was just having a lot of trouble until just one day we started talking, and it was that conversation that, you know, what's going on with you, Samantha, or Sam, and what do you need to do? You know, maybe you need to step forward with this transition or whatever you want and figure out what you need. So we split up, and I started seeing a therapist who specializes in transgender issues, and I started going to a support group in Seattle called Ingersoll. I highly recommend Ingersoll for anyone that lives near Seattle. Please check it out, because it's one of the best trans communities that I've ever been in person around. The internet's great too, but in person, Ingersoll was really the best thing I found. So I started meeting all these other trans people, and I just very naturally and slowly started taking steps toward living as a female. even without realizing it, my first step was to come out to my friends and family, and then to get out of the house dressed as a female, go shopping for women's clothes while still looking like a man, which was extremely interesting and scary, but not the end of the world. And then I was going out of the house in women's clothes to my support group and to my therapist, and then I was going out by myself, which was incredibly scary, but after the first couple of times it wasn't so bad, and I just found myself feeling very comfortable and wanting to do it more. So there was I spent about 1.5 years of my transition before I started living full-time. And in that time, I would basically be Samantha when I was starving for it. I needed it. I could feel it, that I wasn't getting this release, this expression of my gender identity. So I just naturally was making steps toward living as a female, and before I knew it, I said, I'm gonna go full-time today. Whereas my opinion before had just been, I'm gonna do what makes me happy. So I would get dressed up and take care of myself, clean myself up, if you will, what I needed to, and that would make me happy, and I just felt like I needed it more. And then I needed it even more than that. And then I needed it every day. And then I needed, to change my body, I needed to start hormones so that I could feel more comfortable in my own skin and more comfortable when I look in the mirror in the clothes that I like to wear. So before I realized it, I guess I became what you might consider a transsexual. I don't really identify as transsexual. I guess I call myself transgendered, because I do agree that with other people that it's not all about sex. My first clues that I was transgendered did come out in me sexually, but I'm not doing this for sex, the act, or for my parts. I'm doing this because it makes me happy to look this way, speak this way, relate to people as a woman, and I would just really enjoy it. So my knowing of myself being transgender has just been a very gradual journey, a gradient, if you will, just from male to female, and I just kind of moved across this gradient slowly and didn't even realize kind of how fast I was going or how slow I was going, except when it felt like it was taking too long. And here I am. So I really love what's happened to me, and I love the life that I've built, and I think that if you're questioning yourself, then think about what's going to make you happy, and try and meet people, and if you have questions, ask me, and I'll try and reply. That's all for now. See you next time.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We hope that you found this information to be informative and helpful. If you would like to provide any feedback that will help us to improve it in the future, we would love to hear from you. Till then, take care and be proud to be a transgender.